Keir Starmer today urged the Prime Minister to put politics aside and put patients before non-doms to fix the NHS.
Yes, the call comes as health service backlogs continue to grow. That's despite the PM's pledge to cut waiting lists in January. Well, here to explain Labour's NHS plan is former Labour MP Simon Danczuk. Very good to see you this morning, Simon. Talk us a little bit through this plan.
Well, what they're proposing to do, and it's the brainchild here, is Wes Streeting, and he's proposing to get rid of the backlog by encouraging and enabling local health authorities to work over the weekend. It seems like a no-brainer to me. There's over half of hospitals don't actually close their operating theatres over the weekend. And what we need to do is sweat the asset. I mean, it's quite an obvious solution to a significant problem. So get operating theatres working over the weekend, use money from getting rid of non-dom status to fund that in the NHS, and get the NHS carrying out more operations on a Saturday and a Sunday. I think it's a great idea, actually.
Simon, it's a great idea, but if it's so straightforward, why hasn't it been done before? Because who says these doctors and surgeons are going to agree to work at the weekends? You can't make them. The government say they'll pay them overtime, but when did you last see a GP surgery open on a Saturday? It's a new mindset in the NHS.
Yeah, I think we are. Oh, without a doubt, we need radical reform within the NHS, and I think the person to do it is Wes Streeting, the shadow Health Secretary. I think he's already been around the world looking at other solutions. He was in Singapore recently, looking at what some of the solutions could be for the United Kingdom. And Labour probably are the party to reform the NHS. The Conservatives always get stuck on trying to reform the NHS. They're sort of seen as the bogeyman when it comes to the NHS. So Labour could do that. If they get into power at the general election, then Wes Streeting, who's one of the smarter members of the Shadow Cabinet, I have to say, and if he's enabled to do it, if Keir Starmer allows him to reform the NHS, then we could eventually see some change. And I do think that needs to involve increasing productivity. It needs to involve the private sector much more. We have to have a radical overhaul.
I mean, it is going to have to be root and branch reform, isn't it, Simon? Because quite frankly, I mean, just look at the backlog and also the cost. I mean, Wes Streeting himself would say the NHS is going to go bankrupt if it doesn't reform.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's been honest about that. That's why I think Wes Streeting is the person to do it. He said that the funding for the NHS is unsustainable. He says that the NHS used the winter crisis to try and get more money out of government. He's speaking the truth on many of these matters. Rishi Sunak, as one of his 5 pledges, has said he'll get waiting times down. That's not really occurred. I think it's gone from 7.7 million a year waiting to from 7.8 million. That's not much change. So we do need a radical overhaul.
I agree with you, but I suspect there are some of your former colleagues on the Labour benches, Simon, who will throw their hands up in horror at the mere idea of more private sector involvement. Of course, it's much easier for Labour to do it than the Tories, but he could encounter, Keir Starmer, a lot of opposition on his own side, particularly if he doesn't have a huge majority.
Oh, I agree with you. There are people within the Parliamentary Labour Party who will not have truck with any involvement in the private sector. The problem Labour has is that Keir Starmer is no Wes Streeting. Wes Streeting knows how to connect with the public. He speaks the honest language that's required. He knows how to define a woman, which Keir struggles with. So perhaps in many respects we'd be better off with Wes Streeting as leader, but that's not what we've got at the moment.
OK, Simon Danczuk, former Labour MP, very good to see you this morning. Thank you very much indeed.